Almitakwape. Hello, my relatives. I'm Betu Washte. Today is a good day. Ake, again. What I want to talk to you about is what transpired before and after October 1st of this year, 2009. In the news was about the Hopi Tribal Council and the Navajo Nation Tribal Council, or National Council, I don't know how to term it. It's colonization anyway, and these are colonized colonial apparatuses that continue the genocide of the American government. Well, they came out. Now understand colonialism, okay? Because you're all suffering from it anyway. Indian policy has been born, bred, and exploited to the world. But it started on an Indian reservation. You've heard me talk about it. What I want to talk about is these sellout Indians who are elected tribal council members, and then they form a quasi-colonial government that is totally dependent on the federal government of the United States of America. And they have their hands out, and every time they want something, they bend over and walk backwards towards Washington, D.C. These are tribal governments, and they aid and abet in the genocide of my people. And I've had it up to here for decades with these sellouts. And now what they're saying is environmentalists are not welcome anymore because they want to close a coal-fired plant. Yeah, let your people and your babies be born deformed and die in early age from that filth. You know, the first thing that John Glenn saw from outer space was the cloud, the black cloud around the Four Corners area, the Navajo Nation, where all these coal-fired plants are. That's the only thing he really recognized. That was the United States was a filthy cloud of disease. And only because they get $11 million, the Navajo Nation says. You know, the Navajo Nation goes into 3 states, and it's about the same size as the state of West Virginia. And here we have these people dependent on $11 million. What's wrong with it? You see what I'm saying about colonization? Why don't they have an economy that takes care of their people rather than polluting their people for a lousy $11 million? What does West Virginia do with $11 million? Are they totally dependent on it? No. But the Navajos are. And they don't want to upset the people in Washington, D.C. who toss the scraps from the table of the white man to these Indian reservations. And the Hopis, the Hopi Tribal Council, going totally against all their teachings. Now you might ask, who am I to be talking about Hopis and Navajos? Well, I'm married to a Navajo. I have Navajo children. I have Hopi children. I used to be married to a Hopi. I have Hopi grandchildren. So I know what I'm talking about. I lived there. I lived on those lands. And I talked with the people. I attended their ceremonies, their kivas, their dances, their political meetings. And I became involved because of my children and because of their beauty, the Hopi beauty, the Dene beauty. That's what the Navajos call themselves in their own language. But their tribal councils are selling them out, and their babies and their unborn with this filth for a few measly dollars. Oh, it sickens me. And then there's these idiots up in North Dakota. They've been in the news on ESPN and what have you. about okaying the name Fighting Sioux for the University of North Dakota, which has been a bone of contention for us for decades, all right? And yet the Spirit Lake Sioux Indian Reservation and the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation, one has voted in favor of the name and one hasn't. Students, year in and year out, Indian students, Lakota are Sioux students, and other tribes that go to the University of North Dakota, they protested every year. I've been involved in decades of protest on that redneck area of America, that right-wing Nazi mentality. And the Fighting Sioux, who gives those two reservations their sellout tribal councils? You know, they beg for taxpayers' money. That's another insult to my sensibilities as a human being. They beg for this taxpayers' money. Every year they go to D.C. and beg, hold out their hands. Yes, the boss. Please, boss. Man, you haven't seen anything so degrading in your life as I've seen them when they've been there. I don't even go there anymore to watch that. Saw them back in the 1970s. It was too humiliating. And now the Fighting Sioux, they won't stand up for their own self-dignity and self-pride because of government handouts. And I mean their penny-ante handouts do guarantee the continued genocide. We're losing our language, we lost everything, and yet they want to go with Fighting Sioux. You know, the people in Minnesota wanted that name to be the Vikings. The Irish people, they wanted to know the Fighting Irish. They chose that. The Padres, you know, the San Diego Padres, well, that's a vocation, like the Pittsburgh Pirates. Same thing, you know. Padres, Pirates. Now, as far as the Fighting Sioux are concerned, we have Sioux Indians who live in a 5-state area in Upper Plains and in Minnesota. A 5-state area. And Sioux Indians who live in 3 Canadian provinces on reserves, they call them up there. They haven't got their permission, and that's the majority of us. I want you to understand, the NCAA says it's an insult to us because they've come to us and asked, the NCAA, and they put these on probation once, and then they put it on, and so the University of North Dakota is going to have 2 Indian reservation tribal councils vote. That's not me. That's not my people. They're not voting. But that's not our nation either. It's 2 reservations. Let's see, there's 9 in South Dakota, 1 in Nebraska, 2 in Minnesota, 1 in Montana, and 3, 4, 5 in Canada. So how many is that? 5 and 9 and 2, 7, 22, 23, 24, and 5, 29 Sioux reserves or reservations. And 2 are going to speak for us? I'm afraid not. And as the chief facilitator of the Republic of Lakota, I've been asked to go to the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation on the 14th and 15th of October to speak on this issue. Doksha, okay.